America, it's time for some straight talk. You love your phone. Look at you. You hardly put it down. But you don't love that expensive wireless plan, do you? So what if I told you can keep that phone, network, and number 2 for a lot less? Well, this is me telling you. It's time to switch to Straight Talk, guys. Bring your own phone and get unlimited plans starting at just $45 a month on America's largest, most dependable 4G LTE networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
The Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
If you are hearing this voice, you know that it is not Dan Le Batard or Stugotz.
What?
We sorry to disappoint you, but
and I'm not Poppy.
You are not Poppy.
No.
It's Matt Barrie and Elle Duncan of Sports Center relationship fame. We are filling in for the guys today as they continue to deal with the after effects of Hurricane Irma. Of course, our thoughts with everybody down in Florida. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, Dan and everybody gets back to radio soon. But for today, Elle Duncan, Matt Barrie filling in for the guys. Looking forward to it. Have a great show planned. We're going to talk Monday Night Football, the after effects of Adrian Peterson signing with the New Orleans Saints.
Ooh,
Baker Mayfield apologizing.
Ooh.
I believe we can tell you that Marty Smith will be joining us. Who knows where that conversation will go. But we know the conversation right out of the gate, Elle, is Tuesday mornings tend to be the first morning that all of us can breathe.
Right.
And just collect ourselves from Thursday NFL,
right,
Saturday college football, Sunday NFL, Monday NFL, and now I think we all get to catch up and talk to each other again.
Right. It's just a matter of what we're going to talk about once we do get to Tuesday. And it feels like Thursday was so very long ago, but we had some observations from yesterday's game. By the way, shout out to this dude on Twitter, Doug Peterson's agent, who every time I mention that me and you are doing anything together, he's really trying to make this work. He keeps calling it salty and sassy time. And then there's a GIF of a man that's a salt shaker and he's dancing. Now, who is the salt and who is the sassy in this pair?
Well, what's he trying to get at?
I don't know. I don't know.
Is he thinking like we're a thing?
I don't know. I don't know if he's referring to you being like salty and me being sassy, or
which one of us is get off my lawn?
Definitely you.
That's me.
Yeah, you hate on everything.
No, I don't. I'm not a get off my lawn guy. I'm more of a don't feed my dog people food type of guy. There's a completely different guy. Am I really the curmudgeon of the two of us?
You are.
We're probably going to see that over the next 3 hours. I was going to say,
we're going to hear it.
So what is it about it?
What is it about what?
Me being the curmudgeon.
I just think that you, even though you look like you're about 26 years old, I think you're sneaky older than people know. And I also think that you've hit that age where tradition is important to you.
Is it the snark?
Some of that as well.
Should I be less snarky?
No, I love the snark.
Great. I don't think I'm going to be less snarky. Is it the Jason Bateman thing?
Matt has been saying for a couple of weeks now that people think he looks like Jason Bateman. Now, how is this a new thing? Jason Bateman has been an actor for many
it's been
years.
going on for a while.
Okay.
It's been going on for a while, but I think he's new again because of Ozark.
Okay.
And so streaming some of these shows on Hulu, and that's like the thing. Mm-hmm. And so it's come up again.
It's better than the poor man's Billy Bush, which you have also been accused of looking like.
I've been called the poor man's Billy Bush. And because this is old school radio, no TV today for the Le Batard Show.
Yeah.
So, Elle dressed accordingly. You dressed for television.
I did. I did my hair.
And so did I. Yeah. I mean, you did it up. And so we're going to be just old school radio today. We're just going to talk to each other. And the reaction after Monday Night Football. And we'll get into this coming up later in the program, Al, because the NFL this weekend in general, we have plenty of thoughts on that.
Laid an egg.
And I don't know what it was or why it was. We'll try to unpack the struggles the NFL had in week one. But Saints-Vikings last night. Mm-hmm. And everybody knows the story. It was the much ballyhooed return of Adrian Peterson going back to Minnesota.
Right.
None of us knew that Sam Bradford was going to be an All-Pro last night.
Well, no, because that offensive line was so awful last year for him. But boy, did they turn things around. I mean, listen, if given the time, right? He's got an arm. It's why he was the number one pick. Do you believe it, though?
No, the only person I buy on Minnesota is Dalvin Cook.
Okay,
That's
so
the only player that I buy. And then the Saints have issues as well. And it kind of goes into the big picture of the NFL after week one. Monday Night Football, Drew Brees should have been the star of the show. Mm-hmm. And then it's Sam Bradford. Adrian Peterson's storyline should have been the star of the show. but it wasn't.
No. Led the team in rushing with 18 rushing yards. Tied with Kamara. It was a joke. Mark Ingram, who's supposed to be their workhorse guy, 17. It was just, listen, from a fantasy perspective, Drew Brees was extremely disappointing, but the Saints have had slow starts for the last few years, so that wasn't exactly surprising. I do think the most surprising thing is that the star of that game, the star of Monday Night Football, between the two games, really, is Sam Bradford.
I don't have a problem with it.
Why?
Sam Bradford's good.
Do people not like Sam Bradford?
They don't like Sam Bradford because he was the number 1 overall pick, and he made a ton of money, and you could credit Sam Bradford with the change in the rookie salary scale.
Right.
When he got paid all that money for proving nothing out of Oklahoma.
Whose fault is that?
Not his.
Okay.
And he's always hurt.
But he's been humbled. He's been humbled since then, right? Isn't that what people want? They want to see someone contrite, someone that started at the top, whether it was earned or well-deserved. He faces injuries. He gets traded. Like, he's been humbled. So why don't we like Sam Bradford?
27 to 32, 346, 3 touchdowns. They don't like him because number 1 picks are never going to be liked.
Okay.
They're because they're the player that comes in with all of the hype that's going to resurrect the franchise, and more often than not, they don't work.
Right.
So you've got the number 1 label tagged to you forever. He wasn't great with the Rams. He was always hurt.
Right.
And then he gets traded to Philadelphia. That, you could argue, didn't work.
No.
And then now he's got an opportunity with the Minnesota Vikings. And when number 1 picks don't work, they're just not liked.
Mm-hmm.
Jamarcus Russell is not getting invited to anything anytime soon that's outside of his hometown.
He's always our gold standard now.
Because it was so bad.
Like, Ryan Leaf is like, thank you, Jamarcus Russell, for doing what you did so that people can move on from me.
He's just going to have that attached to him. And if he stays healthy, look, in all seriousness with last night's game, he looks like an NFL quarterback. He was effective. He moved the ball around the field. Dalvin Cook, the rookie out of Florida State, looked really, really good. If the offensive line and if they stay healthy, Sam Bradford could have that kind of career renaissance we're seeing out of Alex Smith.
It feels very knee-jerk. It feels very knee-jerk. It was the Saints defense.
That's what we do, though.
Let's temper this a little bit. It was the Saints defense. It's week 1. And I don't know that we learned much about anybody in week 1. Like, we're ready to go ahead and give NFL MVP to Alex Smith. Okay, they had months to prepare for this Patriots game.
But we love overreacting. That's what I said to start the show. It's Tuesday. So this is where we overreact on Monday from a full slate of NFL football. But we sit here on Tuesdays, and now we have to look at week 2. I like Sam Bradford. If he stays healthy, I think he's a nice player.
Okay. He's a nice player. What are the Vikings going to do?
They're not going to win the division.
All right.
Because the Packers will win the division. Lions are okay. Bears,
no.
Pass.
They're better than the Bears. So
I look at Minnesota, if healthy, with Sam Bradford, 9-7, 10-6.
Okay.
What's wrong with that?
Do you see them as a Super Bowl contender in any way?
No.
Okay.
Who do you see as you can't make that. The Patriots were a Super Bowl contender.
Well,
they were awful in week 1.
They were, yeah, but come on, man. The Patriots have earned enough. They've built enough equity to give them a pass week 1. What I'm saying is it's the same thing with the Vikings every single year. Really solid defense. They can depend on their run game. It used to be Adrian Peterson. It now looks like it's going to be Dalvin Cook. If they can get some decent play from their quarterback, they can really contend for a Super Bowl.
Tell the beautiful listeners here of the Le Batard Show, Matt Barrie, Elle, Duncan filling in for the guys. Who is your NFL team?
The Broncos.
Okay. Would you take Sam Bradford on the Broncos?
I mean, you're asking me after my Broncos won and Trevor Siemian looked solid. Listen, it doesn't matter. You could literally put touchdown Jesus back there right now. The Broncos' offensive line is not good. So to me, they're kind of one and the same. I feel like we don't know who Trevor Siemian is yet. We've had one season with him, but we know who Sam Bradford is. So the upside to me of Trevor Siemian, I'd take Trevor Siemian.
I would like to give you this opportunity to talk about the Broncos and their game. Because for those who want a little behind the scenes of working with Elle on SportsCenter, if you bring up the Broncos, and it doesn't even need to be a deliberate, hey, Denver Broncos. If you just buzz the tower of talking about the Denver Broncos, you'll go all in. And so this is your opportunity. Like, you're our Broncos insider. I want you to just break down the game last night.
You know what? I don't need to break down the game. The Broncos, listen, if anybody out there listening watched the Broncos play any games last year, This is the exact same team. Really solid defense, no fly zone, weak spot is their rush defense. Offensive line is trash for the Broncos. Trevor Siemian was able to scramble yesterday. That was something new. But listen, I get it, Matt. As a Broncos fan, I understand watching them is boring. I get it. They're not fun to watch. They're boring to watch. You got a lot of 3-4 yard completions, get into third down situations, try to pick up a first down by running the ball 2 yards. Like, this is literally all they do. So I get it. It's boring.
What's it like watching a Broncos game with you?
It's really, 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 really difficult. There have been times where my husband has left the house and gone for a walk at midnight to get away from me. It's gotten better since we won a Super Bowl, but it's embarrassing. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not my finer moments.
What was it like last night?
I was okay.
You were?
Yeah, I was okay. Until
almost
the fourth quarter.
Almost blew the lead. Yeah,
Listen, all right.
Almost blew the lead.
Until the fourth quarter.
Trevor Siemian went from Hall of Famer to average again.
Okay, well, no.
You were okay?
See, you did that. You did that. No one called him Hall of Famer. He looked really solid, but when it comes down to the Broncos preserving a lead, I feel confident in our defense, and that's exactly what happened. Defense got a couple of stops when they needed to. We get that blocked field goal. We're good to go. Right. I'm not stressing after week 1, Matt Barrie. Now, how about your Cardinals?
Oh, we'll get to that later.
All right, okay.
That's why you're salt and sassy. I'm just here to proctor the rest of the program. Coming up next, was it the shortest marriage in football history?
Possibly.
Did we already see a kink in the vows that happened last night? We'll talk about that and more. Matt Barrie, Elle, Duncan, filling in for Le Batard and Stugotz today, ESPN Radio.
Cash more of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz. 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
We know that in the world of celebrity Hollywood, that marriages tend to not last a long time.
Okay.
Is that fair?
That is fair. But
will you be our Us Weekly correspondent? Like, that's what happens?
Yeah, no, it is. But I feel like there are those divorces that we see coming, right?
For instance?
Britney Spears. Everybody knew both times.
She's been divorced twice?
Yes.
Who was the first?
Remember she married that dude in Vegas when she was wearing like a cowboy hat and like a tank top.
Federline?
No, that was the first. Jason or something, I think. Then she marries Federline. Like, we saw that coming. We knew that was coming. It was a train wreck that we were all waiting for it to happen. Then you have like a Chris Pratt situation, right? Like, who saw that happening with Anna Faris? It's devastating.
And why do people, because I don't get why people get so upset when celebrities divorce.
Because you feel like you have irrationally invested time into their relationship.
Why? They don't care about you?
Sure.
So why do you care about their marriage?
It's totally and completely irrational, Matt. We get that. But there are people that you root for, I think. Right? Like, Chris Pratt is like your, used to be lovable, chunky guy that turned into this hot guy. And you loved that Anna was the famous one when they got together and she supported him through his chunky phase.
Because you know him so well.
Right, absolutely. I know he is a stand-up guy in my heart.
So all of this is to say that we perhaps thought the marriage between Adrian Peterson and the Saints was going to work.
Who?
I think everyone when they signed up.
No.
You didn't at all.
Nope.
When this marriage was wed in contract paper lock signing, like marriages are with the contracts, you didn't think that this was going to work.
No. They already have a running back. And they drafted Alvin Kamara. Of course I didn't think this was going to work.
Is it over?
Based on what we saw last night, it's not on great footing at the start. I mean, this is like getting into a huge fight at your reception.
So he's Britney Spears and
legitimately, like, we could be seeing an annulment any day now.
Why didn't you think this would work? Look, Adrian Peterson is one of those players. We saw it when he came back from the torn ACL. He's the type of player that when he's got something to prove, he's really, really good.
Okay.
So I feel like he had something to prove because, if we're being honest, not a lot of people wanted to sign him. He wasn't the most sought-after running back on the market.
No, he was not, which is why he went to New Orleans.
Saints, which is kind of an odd pairing with the kind of offense they run, but we've seen it with how they use Mark Ingram. They can be an off-tackle, up-the-middle type of team.
Right.
And so you would think Adrian Peterson, something to prove, going to a new franchise, playing his old team last night. You'd think he was set up to be at least a happy honeymoon. We didn't even get to the honeymoon.
No.
They didn't even get to the hotel suite.
Period. But again, that doesn't have anything to do with what Adrian Peterson was doing. They don't know how to use any of their running backs right now. I mean, your two leading rushers are Adrian Peterson and Alvin Kamara, 18 yards. Mark Ingram, 17 yards. So what I thought was that they wouldn't know how to incorporate Adrian Peterson into the fold, right? And how they'd take those carries away from Ingram because he's their workhorse. What I discovered last night is they don't know how to use any of them now. Not one of them.
I think Alvin Kamara is the best running back on the team.
Okay.
Rookie out of Tennessee. Good player.
Super solid.
So is this an annulment?
And their best pass-catching running back, too. Listen, I'm not saying it's an annulment. I'm just saying, and if you missed the game yesterday, all anybody's really talking about right now is what looked like a blow-up between Sean Payton, the Saints head coach, and Adrian Peterson. It looked like Adrian Peterson was screaming at him on the field. Well,
here's what Peterson had to say about it after the game, whether or not there are any issues with his head coach, Sean Payton.
No, any issues? No. I don't know what clip you're talking about, but...
You'll see it.
Yeah.
It's the one with the death stare.
The death stare? Well, one thing I said to him was, hey, you got to run this inside zone. And we came out and we ran it. So, there's no conflict. Let's not try to spin it like it is. There's no conflict. I got a lot of respect for Coach Payton and his offense and what he's a great mind, So, we're going to learn from this. The Vikings are going to learn from what they can learn from offensively and defensively. And a coaching staff and our coaching staff will do the same thing. They're going to look back and say, okay, what are the things we could have done better? And they're going to improve on those things. And as players, we have the responsibility of doing the same thing.
Yes.
Okay. My knee-jerk reaction says this is a terrible place for this to start. The other side says, does Adrian Peterson get this emotionally invested if they're opening up the season against Tampa Bay?
No.
Right? Like maybe what we saw was, as you just mentioned, someone who, when he has something to prove, tends to rise to the occasion. And boy, did he want to have a good showing at Minnesota in front of those fans.
You know why? Because he saw his ex-wife with his his old relationship with a younger, hotter version of him and Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin Cook, who looked really good.
It looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that this ends well.
Okay. How does it end?
Well, if it was up to me, it'd end with Adrian Peterson just going to the Cardinals and getting it over with.
Okay.
But cameras are everywhere. And the last thing you want, we were just watching up here on the monitors on SportsCenter, the last thing you want is talking about your team. You already lost to Sam Bradford and the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've got this rift between these two that they say doesn't exist, which clearly it does.
Clearly there's some issues there. But again, I think that it's going to depend on them getting creative and how they're going to use this backfield because they've got plenty of weapons. But what they did yesterday just isn't going to cut it.
The first week of the season, we've already got drama with the Saints. It'll be good.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo!
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Guest of the Dan Le Batard Show up here via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Coming up in the 11 o'clock hour, we're going to do How Old is Too Old, and we'll want to hear from you. So the number 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. We'll do a How Old is Too Old.
I was told I'm too old for this haircut.
Okay, so how old is too old for the faux hawk?
On the Twitter.
And I do have to say, Ryan Clark, I'm gonna go 12.
It's a burst fade. First.
Okay, wait.
I like
burst.
it.
It's a burst fade.
Yeah. What is that?
It's not a full hawk. So you're wrong.
A burst
okay,
fade.
So it's a fade and it's bursting.
It's a burst fade because it's here, and I just didn't cut the rest. So that's first and foremost. And secondly, I didn't have an issue with this guy saying I was too old. My problem was he had on a Jay-Z T-shirt and jorts.
That's another good how old.
Okay, so how old is the jort cutoff?
It's not about age; it's about century. And I think the jorts. I think the jorts should have died in 1993.
Well, so that's the thing, man. I think it just all depends. Like I have a college student You know what I mean? So, and I got a junior in high school, and when I get around the dads, I'm different.
Well, yeah, because you probably look like your college student's friend.
You know, and so like that's kind of like the issue though. Like I don't feel like I'm old. I don't think 37 is too old for my haircut, Elle.
There you go. So there's an example of how
clearly,
old is too.
That ain't nothing but ultra perm.
Clearly, you like jorts and Jay-Z t-shirts. I'm just playing.
You know I love you, RC.
You hear his voice. Ryan Clark giving you the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. All right, so week one's in the books, Clark, and I look at the NFL big picture for the entire week, and I thought it was awful. I didn't think it was entertaining.
It was kind of cool.
I didn't know that there was anything good to talk about. What was your thought?
Like I think what happens is we expect certain things. Like you obviously expect a certain level of play, but the common fan, usually when people don't score a lot of points, they think football is bad.
Yeah, they're bored.
Yeah, like because you watch the game to be entertained. Remember last year, and this is a college game, I went to the LSU-Alabama game, and they scored 10 total points. Mm-hmm. And I watched it, and I was excited for 60 minutes.
You're a defensive
because
guy.
They bust people in the face, and they did, And so, like, it just depends on what you're watching the games for, and depends on what gets you excited. When I watch Marshawn Lynch flip the bird twice,
yes.
Run over Jarrell Casey. Jarrell Casey's on his back, pull on his shirt. Like, that excites me. I think overall, it wasn't a good week of offensive football. Defenses are usually ahead of offensive development early in the season. This year is the same, but offenses didn't look good. I think that goes to the fact that people don't play in the preseason anymore, right? If you look at
that's true.
If you look at Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers, these different star quarterbacks, they didn't get a lot of reps. And so now they're just getting acclimated to playing together. They're trying to work on chemistry. And I think we saw a lot of that in week one. I think football will get better. But, yeah, it wasn't necessarily the most exciting week of football.
Give me a all too hot take, way too early in the season thing that people are going to be talking about today.
Super Bowl.
All right. Well, hold up, though, because I heard you on Mike and Mike earlier, and you was all in on the Raiders. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying, like, that's like after week one, right? So all offseason, all we talked about was the fact that the Patriots might not lose.
Correct. Undefeated season, but we do that every year.
Right. But they deserve it, and they've earned it. And with what they added, you felt like that team could be that good. So they lose. Obviously, Pittsburgh's been the hot team other than New England Patriots to pick because of the Bs, Bell, Bryant, Brown, Roethlisberger,
Ben.
That's the B.
Yeah, so you got all those guys, and so you're thinking, okay, Pittsburgh going to come out, they're going to roll this rookie quarterback, they're going to kill him. But you watch the game, and it was like Antonio Brown was real good, and then everybody else was like, right? And so many of these things you come into the week expecting, and then you see something different. And then the Oakland Raiders come out and improve on the two things they needed to. They needed better corner play, and they needed to be able to finish the game running the football. They can do both of those things, or they did both of those things against a team that many people had predicted to go deep into the playoffs and to win the AFC South.
Yeah, Titans were trendy.
Right.
Titans were a trendy pick. And now, to your point, with Marshawn Lynch coming in there relative to Latavius Murray, they can just pound the ball.
Yeah.
They can sit on leads.
And it looks different.
It looks more physical.
Right. It looks different. It looks ugly. It looks Oakland Raider-ish.
So is it a too hot take to say then that the two best teams in the AFC anyway are both in the AFC West?
That would be the too
Chiefs
hot
and
take.
Raiders, right?
That would be the too hot take.
But listen, after Thursday, everybody's all in on the Chiefs.
Right.
And listen, they looked solid, and I get it. When you see Alex Smith hitting 75-yard dimes, like that gets you excited since he's Charlie Checkdown. But I think it's an all too early hot take on the Chiefs.
Well, here's why the Chiefs take is hot, right? Because if you've been a bad cook your whole life, right? Like if my wife couldn't cook, you know what I'm saying, and she came in one night and I had this amazing meal, you know what I do? I go look for the boxes.
Yep. Where'd she buy it from?
You know
Where'd
what I'm saying?
she bring that up from? He's right.
I go look for the boxes.
Yeah,
I'd be
Ashley
like,
doesn't cook. If I came home to me, I'm like, okay, I'd go to the bank account and look for the receipt.
Yeah, and so right now we're looking for the boxes with Alex Smith, and it's not that makes him a bad quarterback, but he is check down Charlie.
It's completely different from what we've seen with Alex Smith, and that's what people forget. The Chiefs were 12-4 last year. It's not like this team was awful in 4-12. They were a good football team last year. We saw something out of the norm for Alex Smith, but that leads me to my next point. I think the NFL's got a huge quarterback problem.
Football has a huge quarterback problem.
I can list you these quarterbacks from Sunday, and I'd say 80% of them, they don't inspire me to watch football.
I have a fun stat here for you. The league average total QBR for this week was 45.
Well, here's the
garbage.
Coach Tomlin would always say there's only 6 quarterbacks in the NFL that can win Super Bowls. Every now and then you'll get your Trent Dilfer on one of the most amazing defenses in NFL history. But he's like, every year there's only 6 quarterbacks that can take a team to a Super Bowl. The problem is college quarterbacking is bad.
With the spread
High school
offenses.
quarterbacking is bad. And so you're taking these people that have never learned to play the position and trying to put them in roles and play on teams and schemes that they're not used to doing, that they haven't been taught throughout their lives to do. Like when you pick a dude top 10 to play corner, he could play corner because he did it in high school one way, he did it in college one way, and when you get to the pros, that's what you're going to ask him to do. Hey, Pat P, see that dude over here? Don't let him catch the ball. It's not like that for quarterbacking, and it takes people to be able to teach him. But because the game has changed so much and we're trying to make things easy for people who can't understand, you can't then make them intelligent quarterbacks who understand the game.
I was talking to a scout when we did our coverage of the NFL Combine this year for SportsCenter. He said quarterbacks and offensive linemen are our biggest issue coming out of college now. And that's not good because left tackles and offensive line and a quarterback, that's the cornerstone of your franchise. And if it's being depleted down at a different level because of the style of offense, it's going to manifest itself on Sundays, and we're seeing that.
Did you remember 2 years ago, there's a report out of Seattle. I don't know why we'd ever talk about Seattle's offensive line after they had that open door policy on Sunday. But there was a report.
They sure did.
Yeah, there was a report. Coach Cable, the offensive line coach, he said rather than draft or get an offensive lineman late from college who played offensive line, he'd rather take a player from another position. So he was saying, I'd rather take a defensive lineman and build him up myself.
Wow.
Teach him how to play offensive line in the way that I want him to play, then take a guy who's played offensive line, who has marginal talent, who you don't think is very good, and try to mold him from what he's learning, from what he's done in the college level and high school ranks, and take a defensive lineman who knows nothing but is athletic, can move, can get into space, is strong, is aggressive, because he feel like these guys are being ruined playing high school ball in the spread, playing spread football in college, and then they get to the league and they can't acclimate. And obviously it's not working for them.
I was going to say that didn't work out well.
It's not working for them, but I think it's just to point to Matt's point of, these guys aren't coming into the league prepared to play offensively.
I just don't want to live in a world where Scott Tolzien ever shows up on a TV again on a Sunday.
Well,
it was bad.
That's also dumb, though, right? Like that has nothing to do with the rest of the quarterbacks in the world who should have opportunities to play football.
That's the Colts.
That's the coach. That's the coach not doing what they need to do to have a backup quarterback that can actually play football. And so, I don't want to live in a world where Scott Tolzien plays either unless I'm playing defense against him on Sunday because he's going to throw me one. But other than that, you got to point to some of the organizations and decisions they're making with the people they have quarterbacking these teams.
Tom Savage, Bill O'Brien deals up to get Deshaun Watson. He trots out Tom. At that point, just go with the rookie.
Why would you even put him out for a half? What's the point? I mean, people were still parking when he got pulled.
Yeah, that boy leash was shorter than a leprechaun. But, when you look at, he had to know they'd be that bad up front. Like, there's no way he didn't know they'd be that bad up front. But in knowing that, if Deshaun Watson comes out and you start him and he stinks it up and he's getting killed, you can't pull him.
Yeah, you're in.
You're in.
You're all in now.
Like, you're all in. So I think he tried to trot Tom Savage out there and do what he could. Win games if he can win games, because this team has won games with extremely bad quarterbacks. They've seen it before. They've done it before. And so I think he felt like, man, let me get what Tom can get me and bring Deshaun along.
See, to me, it felt like ego. It totally felt like ego because he doubled down on something he's been saying for months, which is that Tom Savage is my starting quarterback, even though everyone knew, contrary, that it was not a good decision. Just go with Deshaun Watson. We already know who Tom Savage is.
Can Deshaun Watson win a Super Bowl this year in Houston?
No, but neither one of them can. Deshaun Kaiser.
No,
neither could Carson Wentz.
Neither can Tom Savage.
Here's the thing. I totally agree. The Houston Texans can't win a Super Bowl.
No.
Right? So if you're not completely prepared to play Deshaun Watson, if you're not 100% sold that it's the best for your team and it's the best for his development, for him to be out there the first play of week 1, it's okay.
I'm with you if you've got a guy that's a legitimate starting quarterback in the league. Let's go to, the Chiefs with Pat Mahomes. We know that he's going to be the future of that franchise. But Alex Smith isn't going anywhere. They can sit. That was a luxury pick. Almost similarly to the Bears. I mean, I know Mike Glennon isn't a fan, but he's a capable NFL quarterback. Trubisky could just sit and watch. Tom Savage isn't that guy.
No, listen, I don't disagree about Tom Savage, but it's not always as cut and dry as, hey, this dude can't play, Deshaun Watson can, let's put him in.
Having said that, don't start him on a Thursday night, Deshaun. Don't start him on a short week. Let Savage run out there and that Thursday night.
See, really?
That Thursday
you
night
go back to no.
Yes.
No.
You don't give a rookie a short work week and say, hey, make your first career NFL start on an awful Thursday night game. Ryan Clark, we appreciate your time.
Guys.
The burst fade. The TV viewer got cheated. They didn't see that today.
I learned a new phrase today.
Coming up next, Baker Mayfield apologizes. Why? And did you believe it?
Boo!
That coming up next on the Batard Show with Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Catch more of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz. 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
It was an emotional game. I told you guys that last week that it was. I knew that it was going to have a lot of implications on the playoffs, and so that's the way we were prepared. And so it was an emotional game. And so after the game, it did not mean for it to be disrespectful towards any Ohio State people at all, especially not the team or the players, because they're a great team and a great program. So I didn't mean it to be disrespectful at all. I mean, we do the flag thing at OU Texas, and so that's just something that I got caught up in, an emotional win. And, it should have been something I did in the locker room, so I apologize for doing it in the middle of the field.
That was Baker Mayfield apologizing for his antics following Oklahoma's big win on the road at the Shoe against second-ranked Ohio State. I'm going to unpack this from several areas, Elle, and I would like your response to each topic.
All right.
The first thing that Baker Mayfield said, I didn't intend this to be disrespectful. Yeah, you did.
You definitely did.
That's why you did it.
You literally said afterwards, I had something planned. I just didn't know what.
And here's the deal. I'm okay with it.
So what?
I love that Baker Mayfield did this.
Me too.
Because Ohio State, a year before in Norman, granted, it was a team thing with the team together with the head coach sang the alma mater with Ohio State fans in the corner of Memorial Stadium in Norman. Fine. But that didn't stick well with Baker Mayfield, and he used this as motivation throughout the whole offseason. But I'm okay with it. There is nothing wrong with what he did.
Nothing.
I have a problem with him apologizing.
Me too. Do you think that he was forced to apologize?
Yes, the school made him. There is no doubt that after it got such a response that it did, which I thought it was fantastic because he went into a hostile environment, played like a Heisman Trophy winner, and stuck it to Ohio State, and they did it the year before, I was fine with it. But it got such a visceral reaction the day after and the night of, because we were talking about this earlier, where football brings out the crazy in all of us. People went nuts. And so I'm guessing, this is pure speculation, that someone that sits up in one of the administrative offices that wears a suit for a living said, well, Baker took the attention off of the win and put it on himself and made Oklahoma look bad. So, you know what? We're going to have him issue an apology because that made us look bad.
Stupid. It didn't make them look bad. The only people that were offended or had their feelings hurt by it were Ohio State fans. Everybody else was here for the petty. I loved it.
It's because it was Baker Mayfield. He's had issues off the field. They're trying to give us this image of Baker Mayfield being this clean-cut, not wild kid playing quarterback. But that's what I love about him. He reminds me a lot of Johnny Manziel. You don't know what he's going to do on the football field. You don't know what he's going to say, and you don't know how he's going to act.
And that's okay.
All I know is that he's a damn good football player. He had a great game the other night, and he let his emotions get the best of him. If you have to apologize because the school tells you to, fine, apologize. But don't say you didn't mean it to be disrespectful, because that was the whole intention of doing it.
Of course it was. My biggest issue with what he just said was that he said he should have waited to the locker room. You can't plant a flag in the locker room, and I have an issue with that.
Why don't you like that the school made him apologize? That's their role. That's their job.
Listen, this is the part of sports that gets on my nerves more than anything, are these unwritten rules, right? The code of disrespect and respecting the tradition and stabbing it's stupid. It's absolutely ridiculous. That was an exciting game for Oklahoma fans, a decisive game for Oklahoma fans, really. And all we're talking about is whether it was disrespectful or not, that the kid grabbed a flag.
Universities are institutions of higher learning.
It's just so stupid. It's so dumb, and that's all this is. He disrespected, whatever. They disrespected him the year before. I liked it. He was emotional.
I thought it was great.
Why is this an issue at all? It's the same thing after Richard Sherman. I love when people exhibit those raw emotions like actual people do. That's what they're supposed to do.
These are student athletes that shouldn't be putting themselves ahead of the University of Elle.
Whatever. This is dumb. These are people. He just had one of the best games of his career. And based on what happened to him the year before and in the offseason, the kid was emotional, and I was here for it. And I think it's stupid that anybody would force him or take exception to that.
It probably would have been best had they not had him apologize, because now it's bringing up a whole other sort of emotion.
It becomes a thing again.
For all they're trying to do with Baker, and I'll tell you this because of what they've had to deal with him off the field, and the university has earned this right because of what he's done off the field. They're trying to kind of claymation and mold this guy into this image, because now it appears Oklahoma was a really hyped team coming into the preseason. We didn't know, losing guys like Samaje Perine, Dede Westbrook, Joe Mixon into the NFL, how good they would be. But to go into Ohio State and manhandle the Buckeyes. It appears to me two things. One, Oklahoma's for real, and Baker Mayfield is going to be a Heisman Trophy candidate.
Okay.
And so now the image part of this is starting to take over.
If you don't want Baker Mayfield to quote-unquote disrespect your home field, then beat him on it. Period. These aren't kittens. This isn't children. This isn't intramural flag football. Stop it.
Can you agree, though, he probably shouldn't have done it?
No.
We liked it. I loved it.
What's wrong with it? We see it all the time. People go to the middle of the field, stomp on your logo.
He mentioned OU Texas. That's different because that's an annual rivalry that gets played at the Cotton Bowl. It's a neutral site game. The crowds are split 50% each way. It's a phenomenal football atmosphere. He's never going to see Ohio State again. He knew that he was going to get his last word.
Absolutely. Yes. Would he have done that if this was last year and they had one and he knew he was going to come back? Probably not. But he's never going to have to face this team again.
But you don't agree that he probably shouldn't have?
No. I didn't think twice about it.
Do we have the Lincoln Riley sound about why Baker apologized? Because his head coach, Lincoln Riley, 34 years old, youngest head coach in FBS, he came out and said, here's why Baker apologized.
I think that's something Baker wanted to do. I mean, it's not – I found out after the game, that it happened, and I knew right away that, again, it's not taking a shot at somebody else. He was excited for the way – the team played and in that kind of atmosphere and environment. And he's, as everybody knows, is an emotional guy that, he wears his emotions on his sleeve. He's got a competitive fire that, I think rivals just about anybody. And I agree with you. I think he was letting his emotions out. And, Baker, everybody has a lot of respect for Ohio State, their tradition, the team that they've had before, the team that they have now. That's why it was such a good ball game. So it was no shot at those guys. It was just they were excited about the way we came and played in a great football environment.
And there it is again, the word tradition.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I don't care, though. I don't care. I don't have to be handcuffed by your traditions. Baker Mayfield shouldn't have to think, okay, well, what would tradition say about this in this particular moment? He reacted. He was excising demons. That's what it looked like. He was excited. He planted a flag. Move on.
Okay, so you're the person that's going to celebrate after a touchdown. You're not going to go hand the ball to the ref and act like you've been there before.
No, listen. We're not talking about a touchdown celebration. We're talking about him winning a game that his team was the underdog in after what happened to them the year before. That game kept them out of the playoffs. We're talking about a game, not a touchdown.
I loved it.
What's wrong with it?
I just like that he had to apologize.
He didn't tear the goalpost out. This is stupid. And I'm tired of it.
Will you embrace Baker Mayfield for the rest of the football season?
Absolutely. I love
he's
how
going to
petty
be your
he was.
guy.
He's my guy now. Listen, my allegiances are always going to lie with Georgia. But I like the fact that he was petty and emotional. He had a great game, and I'm here for it.
I will tell all of you listening to the Le Batard Show with Stugotz, Matt, Barrie, Elle, Duncan filling in, that Elle's favorite day of the work week is Friday because we do not top 10 on SportsCenter, specifically because it's petty.
I say it all the time. I make no qualms about who I am. I am petty, and I love petty stuff. And I think it was fantastically petty. And who cares? What
would you have done if they made you apologize? What would you have said?
It would have been very tongue planted firmly in my cheek.
Give me an example.
I would like to apologize to those who were offended by me simply taking a flag and planting it in the O. I did not think that was a huge issue, but apparently for some of you it is.
That is so disingenuous.
So for you, exactly. So for those of you who care, I apologize to you. I would say moving forward, go undefeated at home and it'll never happen again.
What about the traditions?
You're poking the bear, Matt.
I am, and I loved it. Look, Baker, do you. You do you. You be one of the best players in college football. Plant the flag wherever you want if you keep winning football games. But just so he understands, the target's on him and OU the rest of the year.
It is.
And that's another reason why they made him do it.
And also he should understand that with artificial turf, it's very difficult to plant a flag, which is why it fell over.
All right, coming up next.
Thank you. Move on. This is 3 days later. Stop.
Well, to be fair, he apologized yesterday.
Okay, 2 days later.
To be fair, that was yesterday. It's never too late to apologize. Coming up next, I'm in a world of hurt. Because I had the number one pick in a fantasy football draft. And not only the Arizona Cardinals, the team that I cheer for being from Arizona, now I have to make some fantasy moves. Coming up next, the first waiver wire in the fantasy football season is here. Who should you pick up if you lost some of your players? Find out next.
And I have a plea for Matt Barrie about fantasy. That's coming up as well.
Trevor Matich, America's Trevor Matich, here with us. Our college football analyst here at ESPN joins us on SportsCenter AM on Saturday mornings as we get set for a busy day in college football just for College Game Day. Also does some work for the Washington Redskins. Trevor, right out of the gate, I am curious your thoughts on the Baker Mayfield apology.
I think it was the right thing to do to apologize.
No!
I think it was the wrong thing to do to dance on that block O.
Oh,
why, Trevor?
2 reasons. One is it's disrespectful. And he doesn't need to be disrespectful to hammer home the fact that he beat them on their stadium.
Yeah, but that was the point of doing it.
What?
That was the point of doing it, to be disrespectful.
No, it's not disrespectful to beat a football team. It's not disrespectful to sing your fight song on their field in front of your fan contingent that's there on the road. That's okay. But I think it is disrespectful to do that. But it's not just the disrespect that I didn't like. It's that from a standpoint of what they were trying to accomplish, it was harmful. It was less powerful for them.
What do you mean?
To dance on that block O and to plant that flag. It would have been better had they sung their fight song, had Mayfield done his laps with the OU flag around the outside of the field, and then stayed on the outside of the field. Then we would have all said how he got his revenge, how everything was great, but we wouldn't have been talking about disrespect. Sometimes when you are less loud, you are more powerful. Michael Crawford sang on the Phantom of the Opera soundtrack a number of years ago, the part of the Phantom. And at times he was loud and powerful. But when he was most powerful, listen to Music of the Night. When he was most powerful, it was when he was soft. He wasn't loud. But it spoke so much more when he was soft because he was soft. And I think that Oklahoma would have made a much bigger statement if they would have been respectful of that block O in the middle of that field. And so it's not just that it was disrespectful, it's that it wasn't even effective.
I told you the show was going to get smarter. He just went Phantom of the Opera to make a football reference.
I'm like, Trevor's so classy, and I think that's what I'm not classy, and I loved that he did
I'm with
Trevor.
you about he made it all about him. And so the Monday after the game or the Sunday after the game, we're talking about Baker Mayfield and his actions post-game when we should have been talking about his brilliant play on the field.
Right.
And for me, 2 things stood out. 1, there's no doubt about that the university made him do this. And 2, there's no doubt about it. Lincoln Riley is like, do not make it about you. This was a team win.
Well, I'm sure that's probably true. And I'm sure somebody in PR said, hey, you might offend some Heisman voters. And you don't have to offend that many before you go from number 1 to number 2. So you might want to come out and apologize for that. Now, I don't know if that's true, but when he was apologizing, the first thing I thought was, okay, this sounds to me like a PR campaign just in case some Heisman voters in the Midwest say, were offended by what he did.
Absolutely, you see right through
talking
it.
about it. I said they're trying to mold him, and he's like clay right now, and they're trying to mold him into this perfect prototype of a person and a quarterback and a real stand-up guy. But he's Johnny Manziel. That's just not who he is.
Clay. So you're saying that he's like mud, only a little better.
Yeah, like go to the scene in Ghost.
I got
where
you.
they're molding the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that Clay actually though was the luckiest Clay in the world. I think
Yeah,
at that moment that was really good.
agree.
Clay has never been happy.
Yeah, although I would see it differently, Matt, when it comes to the comparison to Johnny Manziel. On the field, there's so many comparisons because of the way they play. Off the field, I've never gotten the impression that Baker Mayfield was as much of an unmade bed as Johnny Manziel seemed to me to be. Now, he had that incident in Arkansas where he disobeyed a police officer who told him to stay put. He ran. The police officer tackled him. By the way, Ohio State might have won that game if they would have signed that guy to a one-day scholarship to play defense for him, that police officer. That was a great form tackle in Arkansas this offseason.
It's the only tackling they've been doing in Arkansas.
But I would hate to be judged by a snapshot of my worst moment, right?
I agree with you.
And I haven't seen from him other moments like that tell me that there's a pattern. So I see it differently from a Manziel standpoint.
Was this an indictment on the Big Ten and Ohio State?
Yeah,
or was
yes.
it was.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah, Ohio State,
Why?
the class of the Big Ten. Ohio State is the team we've been talking about as the most talented team in the Big Ten, and I still believe they are.
Okay.
Overall, top to bottom, the most talented team in the Big Ten. Of course, most talented doesn't always mean best team. But the fact that Oklahoma came in and beat them on their field, didn't just beat them, dominated them on their field. Not just in a shootout with an offense that was more dynamic, because Ohio State's offense still is a work in progress. It's not as dynamic as Oklahoma's. But the fact that Oklahoma's defense, which is good, but it's not Alabama's defense, shut them down. Shut them down on their home field. Those things look really bad for the Big Ten. Plus the fact that if Ohio State now goes on and wins the Big Ten.
Correct.
Right. Tell me what you
That's the
think.
problem.
What are you thinking there, Matt?
If they go on to win the Big Ten, they're in the playoff.
Well, you would think. Oh, you mean Ohio State?
Ohio State.
Yeah, unless you come down to let's say Ohio State wins
If
out.
Oklahoma doesn't win the
Let's say Oklahoma loses one game on the way to becoming Big
Bedlam.
12
Let's
champ.
say they lose Bedlam.
Okay, but let's say then that they become Big 12 champs. So now you got one lost champ Oklahoma, one lost champ Ohio State. Do you think the committee might, for the first time in history, respect that head-to-head victory that Oklahoma has and put them in over Ohio State if it came down to those two for the
They'd
fourth
have to,
spot?
right?
You would hope.
Yeah, you would hope, but didn't help Penn State last year.
But you guys are counting your chickens before they hatch. I mean, if there's a real issue is there a real issue at Ohio State and JT Barrett? Are you pulling the plug? Are you trying to figure something else out?
I'm not pulling the plug on JT Barrett because JT Barrett is one of the great leaders that I've ever seen in college football. Problem is he's not a physically imposing talent at quarterback.
He's a great athlete. There's the difference.
He's got the potential to be a very good football player. He's not particularly fast, powerful, or sudden as a runner. He doesn't have particularly great arm talent. What he does, though, is he knows the offense backward and forward, and he can bring everybody together and get them focused on the same page. The problem is if the guys he's trying to distribute to aren't responding or aren't performing to the level that his leadership would try to get them to, he doesn't have the physical ability to make them better than they are.
My problem with what they're trying to do at Ohio State, Trevor Matich joining us, Matt Barrie, Elle, Duncan in for Le Batard and Stugotz. The issue I have with JT Barrett is he's got zero threat to stretch the field.
Right.
Zero. And that's not what Kevin Wilson's trying to do. And so if you look at Ohio State as they project, I disagree. I think Penn State's the best team in the Big Ten with Trace McSorley and Saquon Barkley. I think they're the better team. And I think Michigan, if they found a way through their quarterback issues with Will Spate, with their defense, they're really, really good. I just don't see JT Barrett when he steps on the field as a threat anymore. And for me, for Ohio State, that's a problem.
Right. Now, trick question. Passing for Ohio State, more than 10 yards, over or under 2. Do they have more or less than 2 pass plays against Oklahoma that went for more than 10 yards?
Less.
They had one.
They
had one pass play.
Terrible.
And that was one of the great points of emphasis.
Let's go emphasize. Let's go Latin.
Over the offseason. And they were against an Oklahoma defense that is not a brick wall.
And that's a quarterback issue. And that's why I don't know what they have in the
quarterback and receiver and line. So
when Cardell came in, what did they do that year in the playoff? They were just slinging it all over the yard. Granted, they had 2 NFL wide receivers on that roster, but they had a quarterback that could stretch the field.
Okay, that's fair.
What do you think about Louisville-Clemson this week?
I think Clemson had better strap it on because Deshaun Watson, in watching his first 2 games, has added more capability at the craft of quarterbacking from the pocket in terms of reading defenses, understanding where the easy yards are. Take the easy yards with his arm rather than just go overpower them with his elusiveness and his ability to run. He's added that to his game in the first 2 weeks, and if he can get that onto the field against Clemson, last year, Clemson did not shut him down. They scored 36 points on the road at Clemson and a loss.
One of the great performances I've seen in person.
Right.
Was
and
that game.
Now Jackson is better.
How?
Because when he sees the defense, in the past he would see color. In other words, he'd see a guy with his jersey color and the opponent's jersey color, and he'd decide if he could throw it that way. Now he's reading coverages. Now he understands when he's got man coverage and an advantage out there. He understands when he's got a leverage advantage on a certain route that he wants to hit, and so he'll throw to that route because of a leverage advantage. This is identification of defenses that he's much better at this year than he was last year.
Okay, so on Saturday, on our show on Sunday rather, Booger McFarland, so very quickly saying that he thinks that Lamar Jackson is as underrated as you can be and be a Heisman winner. Do you agree that no one's talking about him?
You know what? I said coming into this season that it's really weird for a returning Heisman winner to have to sneak up on the rest of the country.
You know my thoughts on that, right? Because the media doesn't like handing the Heisman Trophy out twice. So they're trying to find another way.
Conspiracy theory.
If it didn't happen to Tim Tebow, it's not happening to anybody.
Well, that may be true. Although I'll tell you, Lamar Jackson, if he can beat Clemson in this showcase game,
he's so good.
He is so worthy of consideration to be only the second in history to win it twice.
And here's the deal. And the other thing that he's got going against him is that if Baker Mayfield keeps playing at this high of a level, the media is going to gravitate towards him, whether he keeps planting flags in fake turf or not. Trevor, before we get you out of here, how old is too old for a grown man to wear a jersey to a sporting event?
I would say 21.
Okay.
Unless you're there with your son.
Okay.
Okay, we get that a lot.
Child,
there's a qualifier.
then
We do
paint
get
your
that.
face, wear the socks, everything.
That is also what's coming up next. How old is too old? The number 888-729-3776. You throw us a hypothetical how old is too old. We will guide you through the process because we know you're going to be asking for a friend anyway. Trevor, we appreciate your knowledge. And the Phantom of the Opera, it was beautifully done.
Hey, every Saturday.
It
Trevor,
is the
with
music
us.
of the night every Saturday morning.
There it is.
Thank you, Trevor.
Catch more of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz, 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
When Elle and I do SportsCenter together in the non-football season, we always end each show with how old is too old.
Right.
We throw each other a hypothetical how old is too old and weigh in. So if you would like to give us one and weigh in, you can. Call us at 888-729-3776, 888-SAY-ESPN. So, Elle, my how old is too old for you is something that I've been seeing on social media, and I didn't know these still existed, but how old is too old to be getting hickeys?
Wait a minute. Who are you following?
I'll tell you during the break.
Okay. I mean, I like 16?
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought a hickey was done in high school.
Yeah. No, it absolutely should be.
Apparently, they're all the rage in college.
Really?
Yeah. Like
people are like wearing them like badges of honor?
Yeah, like their neck is bruised with hickeys. I didn't know those still, I didn't know that they went to college.
It's very embarrassing because why are you bragging about someone sucking on your neck? Like at that age, you should be bragging about other things.
What do you have? Because hickeys.
I have one here.
Right.
On someone tweeted at us the situation, not the question. So I'll ask you the question: how old is too old to be offended that someone you're dating hasn't changed their relationship status?
On Facebook, I presume.
Correct.
That's a good one. 18 max.
Okay.
Like if you're in high school, it's a big thing. But do the high school kids even on Facebook anymore?
No.
I feel like once parents got on Facebook, Facebook was done.
Right.
I'd say 16.
Okay. All right.
No, 18.
18 years old. How old is too old to grammar check someone on Twitter?
Oh,
I'm talking to Randy Scott, who just grammar checked you for saying bouquet.
Greeny does that all the time.
Okay.
Like one of the worst things that you can do is be grammar police on social media.
Correct.
The whole inception of social media was
worst.
to get it out in 140 characters.
Absolutely.
We'll get to the Randy Scott thing.
Quit talking your slang. It's WHAT, not WUT.
How old is too old to cry watching a sporting event?
Okay, I imagine that you're saying that because at 38 you probably did that.
Now, I've had nothing to cry over lately watching sports.
It's true. Neither one of your teams are any good, and you didn't expect that they would be.
I wasn't being. I'm not let down by anything. I think the last time I cried was actually the other day watching Classic Sports when the Arizona State Rose Bowl came on against Ohio State.
Oh, is that what
I'm still
you're
not over it.
relegated to that?
That's it. That's all I have.
Catch more of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz, 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Let's go to Charlie from Virginia who wants to get in on the how old is too old. Hello, Charlie.
How are we doing? Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
How old is too old to throw a fit about your football team losing? Thanks. Bye.
Okay, because I love this question because there are normal people fits and then there are Elle Duncan fits.
Right.
So, like, do we call them like just average, like, temper tantrum?
Yeah. Like a regular, yeah. Not like all the histrionics, but a regular temper tantrum.
So here's my answer. If it's your alma mater, I don't think there's any age that's too old. But it's got to be a private fit. Don't go throwing it at the kid or the coach.
College specific? Really?
Yes. Because I paid money to go to this university. I've earned the right to throw temper tantrums anytime I want. NFL, 30.
No, I disagree.
All right, give me, what do you have?
I mean, I think that you can't reach the level of breaking things.
Have you ever done that? You have, I could tell.
However,
what did you break?
Possibly a remote or a
Sounds like you might break your husband if this goes on anything longer.
Oh no, he already knows.
Right. That was the marriage test.
He leaves the house.
Right.
Yeah. I have a good one here too.
What was your answer though? By the way?
40.
Okay.
40. Once, you know what? I won't even make it age specific. Once you have children who can watch you and are parroting what you do, you probably need to stop.
The priority should change from
Correct.
NFL to the children.
Correct. They're impressionable.
It's probably good for the future of America.
Okay, I have one here on Twitter from Ben. I'm so guilty of this too. You ready?
Yep.
How old is too old to say the phrase, "It's lit"?
Oh. That's one of those phrases I wish you could uninvent. College, probably 22. Do people say on fleek anymore?
No.
They don't?
No.
Is that kind of a cousin of lit?
Yes.
Like, did fleek begot lit?
Yes.
What's
but
your
like
answer?
You would say things are
do
like
you still
on
say
fleek.
It's lit?
You would say things are on fleek. I do. I do because the problem is that I always get amnesia and I forget what we said before it's lit. So like now all I can remember is the time when it's lit was a thing, and I don't remember a year ago what we said before it's lit. Like it's going ham.
So when was that?
It's crunk.
Am I just being really white right now?
Yes. Yeah.
People said it's ham. What's that? What's ham?
Oh, going ham. You don't remember that song, Hard as a Mother? Ham. He's going ham.
I may have been on vacation during the ham phase.
Come on. It was a song with Kanye and Jay-Z. Let these know who I am. I'm about to go ham. Come on, Matt.
Elle, Duncan, Matt Barrie for Le Batard and Stugotz. Did you know that you can take the NFL with you wherever you go thanks to the TuneIn app? No matter where you live or what you learn or which team you love, TuneIn brings you the home and away call for every game live. Download the TuneIn app and listen live. I'll Apple Music that song later.
Okay.
NFL Week 1 in the books following the doubleheader of last night's Monday Night Football, which created all sorts of storylines the day after. The biggest storyline for me coming out of the NFL in Week 1 is it wasn't that good.
Yeah.
We worked early.
The matchups or
in
the result?
In general.
Okay.
There wasn't one the two matchups that I was fired up about
were
in the afternoon game, Packers-Seahawks.
Dud.
Not good. I mean, the Cardinals, I'm a Cardinals fan, but we know how that turned out. And then I was really excited for Cowboys-Giants. I lived in Dallas, traveled with the Cowboys for 5 years, working at NBC, still like to see what that franchise is doing. And it was awful. And then last night, awful.
I mean, come on now. Now, hold on now. What were you expecting from Saints, Vikings, and Chargers, Broncos? Like you need to.
That is my point exactly. But that's what the
in.
NFL is bringing us now, because there aren't too many matchups in the NFL that we are getting excited about.
Right.
And inherently, I think that's a problem for the future of the league. And you know this about me. I lean heavily towards college football.
Sure.
Because I believe that in that sport, you could really count on 3 to 5, maybe 6 games a week that you really, really can't wait to see. In the NFL, I struggled to find 3 this week. Struggled. And that's just because I wanted to hear Joe Buck and Troy Aikman call the Packers Seahawks games. I like Aaron Rodgers. And the NFL's got a quarterback problem, and right now it's got an entertainment problem because I won't nap on a college football Saturday, and we're up at 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m. to do our show.
Sure.
I'll stay up, maybe take a half-hour nap towards the end of college game day before the games start, and then I'm up till midnight watching games. In the NFL, I slept in the fetal position with my mouth open for 2 hours because there was just nothing to stay up and watch.
But again, like, you're talking about a league right now that has a guy named Scott Tolzien starting. It's boring. You know, you've got your usual suspects. To me, it's that you've got your usual suspects, right? Those big-name guys who have been around for a long time. Your Tom Brady's, your Rodgers, your Ben Roethlisberger's, right? But then you don't have this young, fresh crop of quarterbacks that you've really invested any emotional time into. Does that make sense? Like,
it does.
We haven't had any of that.
And Ryan Clark was on the program with us earlier, and we're starting to see this because of the style of play they're doing down in college. You're not getting that prototypical NFL quarterback that you would see in years past. I think that's why you saw Carson Wentz get drafted so high. He was the one guy that people ID'd and said, you know what, that is an NFL-looking quarterback.
Right. Pro style.
That's why Josh Allen out of Wyoming, he's another player that fits what the NFL is looking for. But when we get into this era of next wave of quarterback, the NFL is going to have to do something to find a way to make it interesting. Because Clark even said, I believe you mentioned it, one of the more entertaining spots on Sunday was Marshawn Lynch flipping the bird.
I love it. He's so Raiders.
I mean, what are people talking about more? Baker Mayfield and the flag or the near comeback led by Phillip Rivers over Trevor Siemian?
Baker Mayfield.
It's a problem. When your Thursday night matchup this week, who is it? Is it Andy Dalton versus either Tom Savage or Deshaun Watson?
Who, again, though, but think about that, though. Look, let me play devil's advocate and say, if you would have told me a few years ago that Andy Dalton wouldn't have been fun to watch, he's regressed so much. So
but
again,
even when he was good, he wasn't fun. He was a little boring.
The Bengals offense is fun to watch.
AJ Green was fun to watch.
He's fun to watch.
I mean, Brian Hoyer started for the 49ers.
I get it.
And the NFL is going to have to do something because right now it is Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees.
Yeah. Meanwhile, your two big fantasy guys this week.
Ben Roethlisberger, maybe.
Your two big fantasy guys this week are Alex Smith and Sam Bradford. And watching the Chiefs play, it was like watching the Spurs back in the day. It's just like they win, but it isn't beautiful. It's not fun. It was fun last Thursday because they stretched the field, but they don't typically do that.
I also have a theory with the NFL and the way that we talk about this all of the time, that as viewing habits change in consumption, the NFL is going to eventually have to get on board. You know what I love about college football other than just the sport itself is that starting at noon, Elle, I can go noon to 3:30. Just a ton of games. Then you have another window, 3:30 to 7.
Yep.
Then you have another window, 7 to whatever. Then you have Pac-12 after dark, which when things get weird. So you have essentially 12 hours of nonstop football. You know what the NFL does? You get the 1 o'clock games and the 4 o'clock game. That's it. It's over. It's done.
You're the night game.
And if you don't have DirecTV and you don't have NFL Sunday Ticket, you have to watch the game that they choose that you have to watch.
Right, which is almost always one you don't want to watch.
While stuff is going on simultaneously other places, and then before you know it, you miss it. Sunday Night Football in America's here. You get that game, and then it's over.
Do you buy into the fact that there's too much NFL being played at this point, that it hasn't become appointment watching because you know you're going to get it on Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and then
Thursday's
at some point in the
definitely
season,
killed
right?
it.
Right.
I could tell you when I was in Dallas, basically covering the Cowboys every day of the week, there were players on that roster that would tell me off the record that the Thursday night games it wasn't good for their bodies. They just didn't like it.
And
players don't like it. They're garbage.
They're not good games. That short turnaround, they're never good games. They're not competitive.
You know what makes it great? Because you have to wait for so long for the sport to get here. And then you get bored with the Thursday night games. And I'm an NFL fan. But I was discouraged that we waited. We were salivating for football. And I was like, oh, this was it. This was week 1. Yay, Trevor Siemian.
All right, well, can you stop picking on the Broncos, dude?
No, not unless they start.
Up,
not unless they start Brock Osweiler.
No, especially because you got a team right now that's trotting out a 56-year-old quarterback. So you need to stop it with this Trevor Siemian.
That was me going ham.
Okay. God.
That was me going ham.
Oh, God.
Speaking of going ham, coming up next, it's going to be lit. Marty Smith.
All right. Okay.
Is going to join us, my guy from SportsCenter on the road. And a Le Batard. From what I understand, he's now a Le Batard Show regular.
He is. Friend of the show.
I used to know Marty when, he's just too big for me.
You knew
now.
Marty before the party.
So it was lit, ham, and what was the other one?
Fleek.
Fleek.
You can listen to the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz.